Can Batu East catch a break? Let's discuss. Welcome to Princess and Scoundrel, where we take you along our scrappily ever after, from Fantasyland to Tatooine and everything in between. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Steven.
And why? Why can't Batu East have nice things?
It is infuriating.
It is. And to aid in our infuriating debate about Batu East versus West, last time we had this guest on, we were talking about Disneyland versus Disney World, and it got heated. There were some cozy words thrown around. And so we thought, when we're going to drill down specifically into Batu East and Batu West and the differences, what better guest to have on than our space brother, Dano. Dano, welcome. Welcome back.
Hey, good to be back. Thanks for having me on again.
You're being so nice about this when you were
like you.
In our text earlier, you were not so nice.
Well, you know, it's great that we could have this friendly debate, right?
Oh, I'm just being nice because I know West is the best. It's the
Oh my gosh.
I'm calm and collected because I know it's the better one. So
wait till we get to the closing arguments, okay?
This is like a true debate where you've got
we have our
firm
timer and points.
Yeah.
And
I was not on debate team. Do not push me much further than this.
Like, no, I can't handle the pressure.
Steven, add in one of those bells for each round.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right, so let's dig into. There are big differences between the park. You just released a video talking about some of the price changes that are happening at Disneyland. You've been keeping up with the stuff that's going on at Disneyland. And meanwhile, at Disney World, it's been crickets.
Boring.
I think that's what started this kind of the thought. You know, I was like, I wanted to have Dan on because he's following it. But it is, to me, it's ludicrous, right? There's a price drop on droids and sabers at West, but not at East. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, why?
Right.
And I think that's like the part that just like you keep kicking us.
And yeah, and to add insult to injury on that, we got all that stuff at West first.
Yeah.
So some of it's discounts on stuff that hasn't even hit East yet in some cases. It's
exactly.
Like, wow, you guys can't even get this stuff. We're already marking it down.
I think that's the thing is like, it's just like, you know, okay, we could accept it. Hey, you know, whatever, you know, the excuses for not getting it to us, you know, as quick as Disneyland. But I mean, you know, again, the price cuts, it's just.
Yeah. So let's talk about, I guess, the scrap metal first. And then we can talk about the discounts on those. So new scrap was announced at Celebration
back in
last year, back in May. And then Disneyland started seeing the new scrap. It was
in November.
Okay.
The second week of November.
Oh, that's right. And then they've been rolling out. Are all 4 of them now refreshed?
At Disneyland, all 4 of them are refreshed. But in Disney World, they still have the old elemental nature as of today, recording January 30th. By the time this comes out, that might change because it seems to be every week or 2 weeks that they drop a new one. So I would expect by the middle of February, all 4 will be brand new on both coasts.
Months before Disney World got it, Disneyland got them. Why?
So one of the big reasons that Disneyland on the West gets a lot more merchandise and just cooler stuff is because a lot of that stuff comes from overseas. It comes from China. And where does most of the Chinese goods end up going? Through the port on Long Beach and LA. So a little place called San Pedro, California. It's kind of between the 2 ports. All those goods land there first. And so geographically, Disneyland is the closer area. Like, it's so much easier to truck that over from Long Beach to Anaheim, California, just a few, 30, 40 miles, if that, than it is to go from there all the way to Orlando across the country. Now, it doesn't fully explain why it takes months, though.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take months to drive across the country. It explains why we get it first, but it doesn't explain the length of time and how long it takes for East to get some of this stuff. Because it wasn't just lightsaber parts. Back in May, during Celebration, they released a bunch of new merchandise too. Like on May the 4th, we got the Camtonos, we got new droid pieces. All that stuff hit, and it didn't land at East until months and months later. So the whole shipping part of it it's just part of it. It's not the full answer. We don't have a full reason why it's taking so dang long for East to get all this cool stuff.
Do you think that they're building somewhat of an inventory?
They might
Just
be,
to-
because like in the toy collecting, a similar thing happens. A lot of the stuff comes from China, and what it'll do is it'll go to like regional warehouses. So before it hits the Target store, it goes to a Target distribution center, and that distribution center then determines, okay, we're going to pack our trucks for this store in California, this store in Oregon, this stuff in Arizona, and it disperses out that way. But there's also some stuff that's landing on the East Coast. I was researching this earlier today, and it turns out the harbor in like New York, New Jersey, that port area is now for the first time in like 10 years actually just as busy, if not slightly busier, than the port in LA, and that includes Chinese goods. So once I learned that, I was like, okay, well, what's really the excuse then? If they're still sending stuff to land over on the East Coast, why is it taking so long? But like I was saying though, a lot of this stuff hits a distribution center. So if you're saying that maybe they're building an inventory, there might be a Disney distribution center, like a big warehouse that holds for both, or maybe there's one just for West, one just for East. I'm not certain exactly how all that works.
And to kind of go back to the sabers, so are they fully done with the old sabers? Like you can't find them, or they
At Disneyland? Yes, they don't even sell the scrap pieces on their own, which they've done historically twice for a couple weeks at a time. It's not something anyone who's going should expect them to do. But when it happens, we all report on it immediately. And then when it stops, no one really talks about, hey, they stopped. So you'll see articles and videos like they're selling scrap metal. And that's all people see. They don't see the part where it's like, oh, hey, they stopped selling scrap metal. But historically, it's only happened twice, and it lasted just a few weeks at a time. As of right now, January 2023, they don't sell scrap metal at all. And the only old pieces, version 1 you can get is at Batu East, and it's Elemental Nature. All the rest are brand new everywhere.
So I wonder if they're just sending all that old inventory to
It
West.
could be. They
Because,
sent
I mean-
Disneyland's. Well, they could have sent
East.
Disneyland's old
Yeah.
scrap
East.
to
East
East.
for them. That would have been the smart move for them to like do that and get rid of it over there at East. That way you have a reason to go visit both.
Yeah.
I like
And
that
then-
thinking. I think that's a good, smart business plan.
Well, I think that's it kind of fits with, how we've kind of learned that Disneyland is more of that local, and that's why they have to keep it more fresh. And Disney World is more the
Like global tourists.
global,
Yeah.
and people coming from like, I haven't been there in, a couple years. And is it the same type of like, that's why they try to keep it more consistent.
Right.
That way people, if they haven't got a Savi's, they could go over there and get it. I get it, but does Disneyland have like a cast connections type of thing over there?
Like a cast member store?
Yeah.
Where they can yeah. They have that.
Because I know
They have that, and they have a couple of the outlets too. Like in Disney World, they've got some of those like character warehouse outlets. They've got some in California as well. And a lot of that older merchandise, like some of the creatures you see at the creature stall, they'll end up there. They'll hit cast connections first, and then they'll end up at the outlets.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's just like a way to push it, keep pushing it is, push it east, push it to cast connections, and then to the
So do you think
the warehouses.
one day the character warehouses will have Savi's, like Savi's version 1
just
pieces?
a bunch of scrap.
Probably
If they did,
so.
that would be insane. Like I know a couple smugglers that do that kind of stuff, that they will go like buy and they'll ship to people around the world who aren't able to go to the parks. And I know I'll be hit if that happens. They go to the character warehouses too. In fact, I got a discontinued Rathtar from one not too long ago. It was like $12. And when they were 35 in the park. So those character warehouses are a really cool resource for some of this stuff. But if they do end up doing Savi's pieces version 1 at those outlets, I know personally I'm definitely going to buy just extra pieces just to have them.
I mean, it makes sense.
Why not?
It's just, where is it going to end up? That's
Yeah.
the thing, is like, where is it going to end up?
Yeah, because I don't think they actually sold it all.
Did you see that story like back in the pandemic right after Galaxy's Edge had opened, they took the Coke detonator bottles that were going to expire and they shipped them to some random grocery stores like in the middle of America.
Yeah, they were like food for less or whatever.
Yeah, they were like little, they weren't chains or
There was
anything, or
plenty
maybe they
in
were like small
California.
chains.
There was a lot in California that I saw. They
Was
didn't
there?
go too far. Yeah.
There were some like
But
states away.
there were people posting about them that were like,
Yeah.
hey, no, we got a bunch here. There were some I saw in Arizona, but a good amount in California. And they were like those like lower, like a food for less kind of store. I don't know what they call them around the country, but that's what we have here in Nevada. And it's just like a cheaper grocery store where some of that stuff that might expire sooner or something, and they can get rid of it for cheaper. Their warehouses send it to there. And yeah, you could just go to wherever and for like $1.50 buy a bunch of, detonator Coke bottles. Which is wild because they're $6 in the park.
I know. They're so expensive, but they're so cool. So, okay. So with the scrap metal discussion, the news that came out last week at the time of this recording is that the prices dropped back down.
Yeah.
So the prices had been pretty consistent at Droid Depot and at Savi's, and they were $99 and $219.
They went up to
respectively.
$219 last year. I want to say right before we went to Star Cruiser.
Okay.
I want to say it was February or January they went up. So a year ago, prices went up to $220 at Savi's, and Droid stayed the same. But then within the same year in October, it was October 11th. I researched this too. The prices went up again for both coasts for Savi's from $219 up to $249.
Right. And then Droids went up too.
That's true. Yeah. Droids went up $20 up to $119. So then as of this last week, Disney dialed it back to those pre-October prices of $99 for a droid again, like they were when it opened. And the Savi's lightsaber's down to $119 instead of $150. But over at East in Florida, they still have the same prices from October, $250 for a saber and $120 for a droid. Why? It's weird that they didn't.
Well, I think the first weird thing is that the price went down.
That is weird. That never happens.
To me, that was the most like.
Thanks, Bub.
That was the weirdest thing.
Was
is
it
just
though?
like to actually see it go down. I mean, we would see prices stay stay constant, and then maybe a discount of some sort,
Right.
a bigger AP discount or something, whatever. But to actually see it go down was odd.
Yeah. But why only at one part?
Yeah.
And see, when some people I've had a lot of people comment on my video I released about it saying, oh, well, that's Bob Iger. He's finally making some changes. And that doesn't hold water for me, because if that was the case, why would it not be at both coasts?
It would be at both.
It would be at both simultaneously. And we also know that Disney World has its own president and manager, and Disneyland, they're separate managerial teams that run each park. Josh D'Amaro might be Disney Parks and handle both. But each one of those separately, they do their own things, which is why we see a lot of differences in pricing on stuff. Like I went through and detailed all the foods and all that stuff, and there's weird pricing that's inconsistent. Some things are more expensive at Disneyland and they're cheaper at Disney World, and then vice versa at the same store. And it changed. There's none of it makes any sense. It's so all over the board that this kind of, now that I've been researching this a lot more, it doesn't seem as weird to me that East didn't get a price decrease while Disneyland did, because there's no consistency anywhere. It just nothing adds up.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought, like my initial thought was, because when, we've had these conversations like, oh yeah, it's real easy to get in Oga's. It's real easy to get into a Saber build or a Droid Depot. I think at Disneyland, because there's the locals, they've tapped out, right? And I think they're trying to get more. They've done it. And I think Disney World, again, is just kind of evergreen. New people are coming in and building droids, building sabers.
People from all over the world. It's a lot more first timers hitting East than it is at West. West is a lot of repeat people who, like you said, have already done it, already been there. And that makes sense. That would make perfect sense why people don't need these reservations 60 days out. Because even Sarah, you probably have to do this occasionally. Book people's Savi's, Droid Depot, or Oga's reservations at the 60-day mark for your clients.
It's pretty easy.
Is
yeah,
it?
Honestly,
At
at East, it's pretty easy. It's a lot easier
good.
than like if you want a Space 220 reservation. Like
Gotcha.
you can do it, but it's not as wide open. Like when we finally went to Disneyland and we went to Batuu, we walked in Droid Depot and there was nobody in there. And we're like, are they open? Like there's nobody building a droid in here.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? And we were just kind of this is weird.
But I think the thing too is like with Disneyland, as far as reservation goes, like you have the 2 parks right there, and everybody's fighting for those same reservations. Whereas you have 4 parks with a ton of different dining, these different types of reservations.
There's so much more to do.
So it's like you would think that it would be less full, but it still ends up being more full than the Disneyland.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, but it probably is that there's just more demand at Disney World, and therefore they can justify those prices. That's what people have been paying since October. So why change it?
Yeah.
That's what I think it is too. It's just they're busy enough that it wouldn't matter if they kept the prices the same. Where at Disneyland, them lowering the prices might actually drum up some of those repeat customers to be like, well, you know what? Price went down. Maybe I will build another Saber, or maybe I will build another droid. And at Disney World, like we're saying, it's a lot of people who are just building their first one. So they didn't maybe know that the price was cheaper before October. They wouldn't have an idea. They'd be like, no, this is my first time going. I've just started researching this the last 6 months or 5 months or whatever. And yeah, no, it's what the price says it is. So they don't know the difference.
I would be curious to sit down again in like 6 months and see where the prices are for Savis and for droids.
Yeah, I wonder how long this lasts at Disneyland. Is it temporary? Is it going to be... Because like, even though we're talking about how Disneyland is more local and Disney World is more, travelers from all over the place, Disney World definitely has its local community. It may not be as... It's big. It is still... I don't want to say it's not as big, because it is big. They just had a big lightsaber meetup this weekend. And this is one of the cases where a meetup at Galaxy's Edge on the East Coast looked way bigger than it did over on the West Coast. A big part of that was because, well, it was Ahsoka Day. It was Ahsoka Day, and Ashley happened to be like promoting it and saying she was going to be there. So there was a bigger need for a turnout. So East actually had a bigger meetup for once. Their community showed up, and it was a bigger, better meetup, that was cool. Good for you guys. Like, yeah, well, that's awesome.
But the thing is, it's like, we finally get a win, or we finally get like a good.
But it's a community thing, not even done by Disney. It's like an unofficial.
But I mean, I think there's other events, the droid meetups, and there's just a lot more communities at Disneyland. And I don't know if it's just because it is smaller that you guys are able to kind of like, oh, hey, let's, you're able to build this better community or whatever it is. But you guys seem to have so many different little events, like,
well, I mean,
Batu stuff, but also just like Disneyland stuff in general. Like they have.
Yeah, there's Bats Day, there's Adventureland Day, there's Dapper Days now on both coasts, but it used to be more of a West Coast, like, was bigger kind of thing.
But don't you have like a couple different Dapper Days?
Yeah, there's like a spring and a fall.
There's a spring and a fall, but they do that both coasts now. I don't know how East is, but I know West, at least a few years ago, was a big deal. I kind of quit going because I was like, it's fine, I did it. Plus, you got to dress up, and that's not my jam. So
it's not your jam to dress up.
Not like that.
That's what 2021 Dano may have said. This is 2023 Dano. But I mean, I don't want to like give you praise or anything, but I do think that part of the reason I know. Part of the reason that the droid meetups are as big of a success as they are at Disneyland is because of you, because you've built this community and you do go out to those droid meetups. And so I think you physically being there, yes, you do put them on both coasts, but you physically being right there close to Disneyland does help. So you, Dano, are personally making it your your mission to make West better.
No, you're right. Like, not to gloat too much, but the most successful meetup that ever happened at East, because I'll do them on both coasts, but usually I can only go to West because I live in Las Vegas. It's closer to me, and I've done a handful where we had the meetup and I wasn't there, and those still did pretty well. But at East, the most successful and biggest meetup we ever had was when I was out there in March, because I was actually going to be there. And I wish that wasn't the case. Like, I loved it, and it was great meeting everybody and seeing everybody, but I wish that East had a bigger, stronger community in that respect, where like it didn't have to be come see the weird YouTuber that decided to make a group and just like, hey, no, we're just a group of like droid builders who want to hang out somewhat regularly in the parks. And it doesn't seem to come together as well at East as it does at West.
I think the other thing that West has in favor of East is Star Wars nights. You
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
get Star Wars night. And the last time that East had it was when we went.
Yeah.
It was when Celebration was in Orlando. It was 2017. And so they did it as
So before Galaxy's Edge.
that was before Galaxy's Edge ever opened.
Yeah.
It was after because they used to do Star Wars weekends, which predates like our time at the Disney parks.
And I really wish I could have gone to that. That looked so cool.
It looked so good. But Star Wars
It looks
night
so
was fantastic. Like we had the best time at Disney World for that one.
Yeah. And again, it's just infuriating because again, you have more chances for those events. I think that's the thing is like, if this one wasn't that great, okay, that's fine. But in a month or two, like there's there's Life Day, that becomes a thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't have that at Disney World. Like and maybe that's why that community is not nurtured enough by Disney. We're like, hey, we're going to have Life Day. We're going to do this and have this new merch specific for this day.
Yeah.
So people are kind of like, I'm just here for the park and, my pictures and leaving.
And it could be that because maybe there was a community at Batu East and Disney wasn't recognizing that. They're showing up for May the 4th. They're showing up for Life Day. They're trying. And the only thing that really seems to be successful there are the lightsaber meetups. But if they're trying and Disney's not giving them anything, why keep trying?
Yeah. And so to what you're saying, like how there's a Life Day and in Disneyland, the parks department showed up for us. They got us new food. They got us new merch, fancy red robes. Like every year, they've only done it 2 years now, but in both years,
Fancy
they've really
red robes.
stepped up and they've showed up for us. I know, but it says Life Day on it. It's embroidered and it's super comfy, very cozy, if you will. But that stuff didn't appear like as plentiful at East. It showed up at East later, or there was a couple things that they had, but it wasn't nearly as much. They didn't have misprinted Savi's creature pommels on Life Day at East that they did at West. But one of the reasons I think that might be is the Life Day celebration was put on by a guy named Sean Crosby. I don't know if your Obi-Sean is what he goes by, but if you've ever seen those Star Wars cars, they're just regular cars, but they'll put like an R2 dome on top and they're decked out to look like starships. He's the guy who did that. And he's actually very tied in with a lot of people with Lucasfilm and with Disney. And he organized the first Life Day meetups. And so he was speaking with people who work at the parks. And so there's that line of communication between a parks department and the community in some of those cases. For the droid meetup stuff, I don't really talk to the parks department. I've had some people reach out and say, hey, maybe don't do this for your bounty hunt stuff. In which case I'll be like, noted, won't do that anymore. Cool. But they encourage those kind of meetups and those kind of things for the communities. But a big part of that is, where is all of Disney parks and all of Disney headquartered? Up in Burbank in California.
Yeah.
So that tie into the community is very close. Like geographically, it's very close. It's very direct. Some of those people are related. They're family members who are part of the communities. My uncle works for whatever up in Burbank. So there's a closer line of communication over at West than there is over at East. And I think that might play into part of it.
It could, but just don't forget about us.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is like, I wish there was some kind of communication with it, with the different communities. Because again, it doesn't have to be just Star Wars, because there's, the Haunted Mansion groups and there's Peter Pan groups and stuff like that. So there's plenty of Disney fans to go around. It's just, hopefully Disney's listening. That's the thing is, get us some new stuff, get us, new food and,
Feed
some of the
us,
stuff,
please.
some of the stuff that
Put some tahini in our green milk.
I know we like some
Tahini in
flavor.
your milk.
I think that was like the one thing you were really looking forward to.
Yeah.
Going to Batu
Well,
West.
I think a lot of that stuff, to me, I feel like it's culturally, it fits in with Disneyland.
Yeah. I mean, specifically the tahini and chili mango. Like, yeah, there's a big Hispanic crowd right there in Anaheim, California, like very close to Mexico. Tahini and that kind of stuff is a big seller in that area anyways. So it makes sense to add it to the foods.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, it's like, you could try it over here,
Quick win.
Sure.
Just put
try
a
it at
couple
East.
of bottles of tahini out next to where you're passing them out. That's all you got to do.
I've got a question. In Disney World for you guys, have you ever, they sell like snack stands, you can get pickles and fruits and whatever. do they ever have like veggies, like a cup of veggies and like a little packet of tahini you can put on them? Like cucumbers or anything? No, none of
Not
that.
that I've seen. No.
So you can get tahini, and they have packets of tahini at Disneyland
No.
that you can get. Like when you get a pineapple spear, you can, I know, give me some tahini, or you can like add it to your Dole Whip if you want. Like it's there at the Tropical Hideaway. And maybe
no,
that's just a regional thing.
Yeah.
But why?
But-
Because like, I mean, we get booze in our milk at the milk stand
That's
if
the
you want
one
it.
big trade-off I wish we had more of at Disneyland.
But honest,
was
have you
booze in
had
more
it?
places.
Booze
It
in
was
more
fine.
places.
Yeah, I had the blue
Yeah.
with rum. It was fine. The blue milk with rum. I was like, yeah, I paid what, $16 for this? It was
Yeah,
fine.
you're like paying double for it, and it really just feels like it waters down the taste of the milk
It's
versus like
yeah.
enhancing
Not
it.
good either. Like it's not a good blue milk. It's not a good
Like
alcohol
cocktail,
drink.
Yeah.
yeah. So it's okay. But the tahini and then the like mango in the blue milk, why don't they have that?
Yeah.
It would be easy to just do those variants because I'm sure they have tahini somewhere in the Disney parks at East.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no.
mango. Come on. Like give us something. Betty needs more milk.
Yeah. Nah, I don't know. I think that's the thing is like the little things like that where even if, again, it's tested, it sells well over here. Like if that's what they're worried about, like you could put it out for a little bit, test it out. People like it, enjoy it. Let's move it over to the other coast. Or even if it's the other way around where there's food, try it at West. If it does well, try it out on East or
Yeah.
vice versa.
Right.
Like if it's good at East, it could go West.
Right. Like test it in one place and then roll it out everywhere.
Yeah.
So this was the interesting thing. And I know you're going to go through in more detail in one of your videos, the food differences. But when we were talking about this, you were saying that East has better food options at Docking Bay 7, which to me is just like shocking because those Batoon beef noodles at West are so good. And I've never really eaten at Docking Bay 7 before last year because Ronto wraps exist.
Yeah.
And why do you need to go anywhere else
Yeah.
besides a Ronto wrap? But even with Ronto wraps, there are differences in like the Ronto wraps are the same, but there's like meatless options that are different at each of the parks.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's regional. Maybe you guys just really like your vegetables.
Well,
but no, we have the
East-
vegetables.
the
Yeah,
one-
we have.
East has the vegetables. It's like a zucchini wrap. There's just zucchini and a couple other veggies and sauce and like hummus in it. While the veggie version in Disneyland is a fake meat. It's a plant-based meat called a Ronto-less wrap, which is arguably the best wrap. I would say it's better than the Ronto wrap itself, which is crazy to say, but it is really good. And yeah, that one needs to be like, I think more people need to try that one and do a little side-by-side taste test and put those two to a standoff because I think the Ronto-less might actually win.
Dang.
Mm.
Yeah.
But yeah, we hadn't done Docking Bay 7. I think Star Cruiser was actually our first time because you got a meal credit there.
Yeah.
And so we tried one meal. And then when we went over to Disneyland, we tried food there too because we were like, oh, we've heard the food is so much better at Docking Bay 7. So it's interesting when you look side by side at the menus, there are so many differences between the two.
And like right now at Disneyland, Docking Bay 7 is really just the tip yip and a couple seasonal items, which won't last. They came in for Life Day. They've been there since middle of November. Who knows when they're going to go away? I would actually expect them to go away. Today's January 30th. Within the next week or two, I would expect them to disappear. Usually that's how seasonal stuff works. By the end of January, it's gone, which would just leave the tip yip. And it's literally
Only
just like
tip
tip yip and tip yip salad and the kids' meals. Where at East, there's like tip yip. You guys still have the Kadu ribs. There's a hot chicken tip yip, which is different. There's like a stir fry, a tuna poke. Like you guys have good options over there. Where at Disneyland, it's like, no, you guys just get chicken.
Yeah.
And there used to be breakfast. They used to have the ribs. There used to be a Ithorian garden loaf, which was really delicious. There's a plant-based meatloaf. That stuff's gone.
Not for
don't know.
breakfast.
Well, not for breakfast. The breakfast,
okay.
they used to have a Mustafarian lava roll with egg bites and the sausage from
I
the
remember
Ronto
that.
wrap. It was good. I really liked that. But breakfast is no longer an option. Docking Bay doesn't open until lunchtime. And I don't know when it happened, probably during the pandemic after the reopening. All the breakfast items, minus the morning Ronto wrap, are gone. Like all that other stuff is just gone at Disneyland. But over in Disney World, there at the Ronto Roaster specifically, there are a couple breakfast items that don't exist over at West. So your food game over there is just a little bit stronger than it is at West.
Another win.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you
They're
go. You
small
guys get another
wins,
one.
but we'll take them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the thing too is like, you saying it is like, oh, okay, I guess that's pretty good. But when it's a more from a perspective, because you're like, oh, but you're going to get new food. So like, that's cool. It's like, if I've already had tip yip, that's cool that, I have all these other things that are classics and we've had them before and
Right.
I like it. But what new things do you got?
Right.
Like, that's kind of the world that we live in is like, oh, what's
See,
the
I
new
think
thing?
You make up for it with booze options everywhere. So at Docking Bay 7, you can get Taco Donna Quencher, you can get Surly Sarlacc, which is a drink exclusive to East.
It's really good
so
too.
That's probably why they
haven't had
feed you
it.
so much is because you're drinking so much.
Yeah,
So
they're
you're
like,
like,
more
maybe.
food. Here you go. Stay, please.
Because you
The
can get
Surly
some of those
Sarlacc-
drinks at Ronto Wraps too.
So, pro tip: get the Surly Sarlacc with your Star Cruiser meal credit because you get an alcoholic drink included, and that's
Yep.
why they have alcohol at Docking Bay 7. Not specifically, but they will. I can almost guarantee they will always have alcohol at Docking Bay 7 because of Star Cruiser, and that Surly Sarlacc was good.
Yeah.
We took advantage of that the first time.
So we're kind of getting onto the Star Cruiser. We're on the cusp of it, right?
Always.
Talking about that.
This is where the scale tips.
This
in
is
East's
okay.
favor.
Not yet. I'm gonna give this to Disneyland. It's wonderful that Star Cruiser and Galaxy's Edge, Batu, we have like this canonized time. We're keeping it consistent, and it's great for that story. But we don't get Grogu. We don't get the Mandalorian. We don't get Boba. We don't get these characters.
Fennec,
And it sucks.
Fennec
Like,
Shan.
I understand it and I love it. I love that Disney's staying committed to it, but it sucks that we don't get it. And I think that's one of those things that where I feel we're losing.
Yeah, I would say so because there's so much more interactivity in the parks. Yes, there are still the same base characters that have been there from the beginning of Galaxy's Edge on both coasts are there, but Disneyland gets so much more. And it feels like it's going to keep changing as new stories come out, new seasons come out. We've got Ahsoka. Like, could you imagine seeing Ahsoka?
Just walk around.
Ahsoka's totally going to show up in Disneyland.
Has to,
I
right?
hadn't even thought about that, but you're right. Ahsoka's totally going to show
There's-
up in Disneyland.
Yeah. But again, I love it. I love that Disney's like, we have the flexibility with Disneyland and that we are going to have that option, but it just sucks
It
because,
does suck.
Disney World doesn't get it.
Now, I will say, I bet Ahsoka only shows up in the winter months because of the paint.
Which is all
Oh.
bundled. Oh, okay. That
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes
Like
sense.
less face paint required and less likely to like melt off. But yeah, I could see her being there. But you guys get to evolve a little bit more, whereas Star Cruiser does limit Batu East.
Yeah.
And so I feel two ways about that. I'm a little bit of a purist. Like, I don't want my Galaxy's Edge tainted by other timelines, which Disney found a good way to do it. The way they pull it off with Boba Fett and Fennec Shan being from a different timeline and Mando and Grogu is they explained it. They're these kind of like wandering time bubbles. You'll never see Rey show up at the same place as either of them because they're not from the same timeline. So when you see Boba Fett and Fennec, just imagine this like time bubble that surrounds them as they wander. Everything that you're seeing around them is from whatever timeline they're from. The rest of the land is unchanged. And that's kind of a weird way to think about it, but it works. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But I do like the purity of the timeline where Star Cruiser takes place, where we were after The Last Jedi, but before Rise of Skywalker. To me, personally, that's like peak Star Wars for me, in my opinion. And there was so much promise we had there. And I love that slice of time. And I'm so glad Galaxy's Edge exists right there. So to have it tainted a little bit with the other new characters, I feel like, oh, it's cool we get new stuff, but also you guys are kind of like going back on your word of when you said this was going to be. So I feel too.
Yeah. No, I think what East could do is they could pull some of the Star Cruiser characters. Like, what if we had Gaia? What if you had just had Gaia walking around East?
That
It's
would
a
be
slam dunk for Batu
awesome.
East.
No, I think I'm
my
still
God,
on the
that'd be
camp of having more aliens. And I know, we kind of the Star Cruiser, the people are the characters, but
Right.
if we had more of that walking around, so it just, you feel more in that.
Immersed.
Yeah, more immersed.
Okay,
Yeah.
now speaking of the people or the characters, East gets a win on this because East has a more lenient costuming policy.
Right.
You guys like over there can actually dress up more than they let us get away with over at West.
And
And
it's
so
not necessarily because of Star Cruiser. Star Cruiser has definitely like pushed it further, but
Oh, yeah.
East has always been more lenient. Like you could get
I've
away
seen
with a
people
lot
full
always.
face paint, like Dathomiri horns, like prosthetics, and like people there have gone all out. But it's more of a city of Anaheim police issue over at West.
Really?
It's a security issue with them of what they let go through. Sure, Disney doesn't want guests getting confused of who's an actual actor and who's an actual guest. So sure, they want to discourage that all over the place. That's in the rules for both. But the city of Anaheim does specifically have certain rules on what they're allowed to do at the parks as far as dressing up. So that's more of a city thing. Yeah.
I mean, they do designate like the halcyon passengers with the pin that they wear, but for people that don't know what Star Cruiser is, and if they don't know what Star Cruiser is, they definitely don't know that halcyon and Star Cruiser are the same thing, and like recognize all these people wearing the same pins. Like they're like, that person's dressed up real cool.
Yeah.
I want to take a picture with them. I want to ask them where to go get blue milk. Like, I think because of Star Cruiser, you're going to have a lot more of that confusion on East, but I also think that kind of makes it more fun.
Because it definitely helps with that immersion.
Yeah.
Like it's just, you know, it's like a deep breath. You're like, I'm in Star Wars because you just see, you know, a bunch of rustic
Twi'leks and all of it. It's
and
great.
especially when you are the passenger that's dressed up and people are stopping you, they're like, why are you so, what's going on here? And you're just like, let me tell you. It's such a cool feeling. And you know what? You can't get that at West.
Yeah.
You can't get that.
Yeah.
You get Life Day Snuggies.
Only on the special days, only on the Star Wars nights where they will let us dress up for a specific party night. But that comes at a cost of what, $175 a ticket or something? Like it was
that's
ridiculous
what we paid
for the Star
last
Wars
year.
nights. Yeah, it was $175, which is not even for a whole park day. It's only for a few hours at night.
Kind of thinking about it, what if they aren't lowering prices for droids and Savis because it's going to be like a discount from Star Cruiser?
Ooh.
So it keeps people going to Star Cruiser to get a discount into the Savis or droid building.
That's really interesting.
I don't know how much of a discount that shakes out to be at the end, but
I mean, it may not
you
be
know,
like
with the high price of Star Cruiser.
Yeah. But like that's how they get their like that price that back down.
And that's probably how they book more droids and Savis. Because I book, it depends. If it's, I can pretty much tell now, like if somebody's never been to Batu before, to Galaxy's Edge, Hollywood Studios, whatever, they're doing all of them. They're doing everything. If they've already been, they're like, you know what, we're going to book this as part of our post day, or we're coming in a few days early. We're going to go. Maybe we'll build a droid there. We don't know. Maybe we want a lightsaber for our pictures. And then there's the ones that have been multiple times and they're like, Ogas, we're good with just Ogas. And then there's like us where it's like nothing.
Yeah.
All Star Cruiser all the time, barely leaving the ship. So you can see that trend. But one of the interesting things is I'm noticing a shift too of like the really diehard Star Wars Star Cruiser fans are now, they've been. And so now the people that are going are more casual fans that haven't had the chance to go to Galaxy's Edge yet.
Yeah.
So it could be that they are doing this to then, like you said, offer a discount for Star Cruiser guests on their Batu excursion specifically to get the discount that basically makes it, I would say it has to be a little bit less than what you could get at West for it to make sense.
So I don't know.
Just go back to the old pricing, the original pricing. That'd be kind of cool if they were like, you know what? Yeah, droids keep them at 99. I don't think they can go lower than that.
Yeah.
They should be 69, I think, is the fair actual price of what they like for what you get and what they come with. I think it's like $70 is probably a fair actual regular price if it was at like a Target or something. But it's Disney, 99, whatever. But for the Sabers, take them back down to 199 for Star Cruiser guests. I like that thinking that Star Cruiser guests would actually get more perks because they should. You're paying enough. It's not really going to kill them that much, you know? Like,
right.
Yeah, more perks would be nice.
The other thing is, if you're getting that alcoholic drink credit at Docking Bay 7, why couldn't you use it at Oga's?
You should be able to use it at Oga's because there's some of the stuff that's different. They have only certain snacks at Oga. So when we go in May, this is the reason I brought it up recently is like, wait, can you do that? Can you use your credit at Oga's? You can't as of right now.
You can't, no.
But I want to try their Hapabor sampler, which has been different on both coasts. And now West doesn't even offer it. It's only available at East.
Really? Because you guys have always had better food options at Oga's.
Go to Oga's now to try some of that stuff that's different.
For research.
Yeah,
It's work, okay? It's work.
Sure. But in closing, Batu East is far superior than West.
Whoa. Whoa. Back up. Rewind.
Because
Look, those comments are not does not represent the
whole of Princess and
No,
whole
Star.
fight.
I'm going on record. We have Star Cruiser. We have this incredible playground attached to Batu East. You get to enter a spot in Batu where you are fully immersed and you are not having to walk through a park. You get to dress up more than you would typically. You get free food and booze as a result of it too. And you have more missions and things to do while you're on Batu that you wouldn't if you were just visiting Batu regularly. Ergo, Batu East wins. Ding, 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 ding.
I mean, I think the fact that there is that the Star Cruiser aspect of it is, a big chunk of like, oh, okay, so this is where. But if we're just talking specifically Batu, then I think it's a lot tighter.
Can't always go to Star Cruiser. It'd be nice, but can't always go there. Do you care to
That's a good point
rebut?
you bring up, though. Well, I mean, Disneyland's definitely the better park. You look at
No.
Hollywood Studios or Disneyland proper, like Disney
Get
Animal
out of
Disneyland.
here.
That's such a way better park.
No, Hollywood
It's Walt's
Studios.
Park. Oh, no.
Oh my God. It's
Oh,
so
no, We're
cozy.
going to fight for real now.
We are going to fight for real now. Do you have Tower of
Hold
Terror in
on.
Disneyland?
Ding ding.
We have it across
I
the
need
way
the
in
bell.
California Adventure. and
Across
ours
the
is
way
better.
doesn't count because our
Oh.
castle's bigger and it's in a different park across the way.
Size matters not.
Right now, we are talking about. Look, I'm having to be the Finland or the
Switzerland.
Switzerland in the middle.
Sweden. There you go.
We're talking about Batu, specifically Galaxy's Edge, and comparing. Each of us have our own.
I mean, we get
Goods
3
and bads,
entrances.
pros and
You guys
cons.
only get 2.
We have 3 entrances.
we
Arguably,
do.
the third one is the best one. With Star Cruiser.
Okay. You know what? Well played. Well played.
Thank
on
you.
that. No, you're right. You're right. Well played.
So, but no, I think it's again the fact that where I kind of get more upset is not necessarily the differences because again, I could look past like, okay, they get it first, but we're gonna get it, for whatever excuse it is. But the fact that they're changing like prices, like that to me is more of like, wait, why do we not, why are we paying more for something that you're getting at a cheaper price? And, learning that it's easier to get into reservations than it is like, that's an annoying thing, but it's one of those things like, okay, it's just full.
Yeah.
But it's like the price type of stuff is where I get more like, riled up.
Yeah. It's like Batu East is consistent. You know what to expect when you go. The prices aren't going to change. What's there isn't going to change that often. Like it's just slow churning. And then Batu West, you've got new and shiny and holidays and events and after hours and characters and all these fun things. And you're like, oh, but I want that too.
Yeah.
But I also like the comfort that I have over here. And so they have their pros, each of them. Let's just put it that way. Some more than others. Do you want to give one last go for Batu West?
So, sure. But it's more of a dig at East than it is pro West.
That's the kind of fighter you are. That just shows.
Gotta go. I
Shows
gotta
a
fight
lot.
dirty on this one, okay? And you're hanging a lot on Star Cruiser. You're putting a lot of the pros, the best parts, which are valid points you're making, are hanging on Star Cruiser. But the reality is Star Cruiser is behind a huge paywall that a majority of these Star Wars fans are not going to experience. So, with that said, that and the fact that there's just stronger community overall at West, meaning like a better, and that's Star Wars. Star Wars is community. That's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And I think that beats it. Like the community there beats it. And the fact that, yeah, you may have Star Cruiser, but not everybody's going to get to have that enhanced Batu experience because it's behind that paywall. While I agree, it's the better experience, not everybody's going to get to experience it.
That's
Well
fair.
said.
Well said. I respect your opinion. All right. I think that is a good place to wrap up this episode. Dano, thank you so much for hanging out, for coming on our show and defending the West Coast. We still didn't come to an agreement on it, but
we agreed to disagree.
Agree to disagree. Where can people find you on the internet? What's some cool things coming up that you want to plug? Plug away.
All right. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, basically everywhere under the Dano channel. That's me, Dano. And, I don't know what we're doing with my channel. We're going to be doing a lot of different stuff. I'm looking at deep dives on Galaxy's Edge information specifically. We mentioned all the different price differences. Doing a full breakdown, East versus West. What food can you get where? What drinks can you get where? And why are the prices so screwy? We're looking at a breakdown of all the personality chips, like how they react in what areas, and a closer look at Savi's lightsabers, how they work, what makes them ignite, some of the internals on them. So go follow me on all my socials for that kind of stuff.
Cool. Thank you. And then for what we're doing with Dano, we've got a couple things coming up. First up, we're going back on Star Cruiser. Now that you mentioned this huge paywall, we are going back on it. We're basically doing like a big takeover of Star Cruiser on May 3rd. It's the May 3rd voyage. We will be on Batuu for May 4th.
See, this is where we're going to have the community.
We're bringing it.
Taking it over and saying, Disney, listen.
It's going to be good.
It's going to be probably the best way to experience Galaxy's Edge and Star Cruiser is in a big group like that.
I'm so excited about it. It consumes all of my thoughts. The other thing that consumes my thoughts is we're throwing our third Mos Eisley together in the biggest way at San Diego Comic-Con in July of this year. By the time this comes out, tickets will be out.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious what the state of tickets will be.
Yeah.
By the time this airs. Right now we're in the before times where we're like, what's going to happen? How are we going to release this? This is going to be so cool. So we're in the anticipation of the before right now. But thank you so much for hanging out with us. That is it for this episode. If you have strong opinions on which Batuu is the better one, let us know in the comments with your reason why. Thanks for hanging out with us.
It's West.
It's not West. Until next time.